let's begin the conversation around national security. But let's get your view, because the Senate at some point, you had a summit on security. The House of Representatives also had a summit on national security. From your own point of view, what are you hearing, or what do you know? What can you tell Nigerians that is a major problem of insecurity in Nigeria?
If there's any issue that the National Assembly has continually discussed and analyzed and spoken about, is the issue of security. I think Nigerians, the major problem we have, I guess, is the fact that we have refused to tell the truth to ourselves. At any time that you tell the truth, what happens is that you are labeled by the apologists of this government of, you don't like our government, you are from an opposing party and all that. But the point really is this: it's affecting each and every one of us in this country and at all parts of the country. No one in this government and no one in Nigeria today can say that when this government came into power in 2015, that it was as bad as this. So we seem to have continually regressed. And we saw the signs coming. If you recall, sometimes, I think it was about 2017, I raised the issue on the floor. I went to the extent of calling for the resignation of the president, because I said, what we're seeing does not seem like a government that is prepared to confront a problem that it used to come into power. Because the government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC used the matter of insecurity to say that they were going to deal with it in no time at all. And most Nigerians believe what they said. But we now saw from that time that what was going on was that an escalation, first of the Boko Haram problem, second of the purported herder-farmer clash, then of instigations of violence in all the southern parts of the country. And we felt that there was something wrong here. And we asked the question, and I remember I asked the question, and I said, how could this government, instead of tackling the insecurity that came in from 2015, continually gave different reasons, and it got to a point where the presidential spokesman, Femi Adesina, this was what was going on in the Benue and Plateau or something that time, says, okay, if you want to leave, you leave your land. In other words, there was an attempt at a land grab. And rather than the government to say, this is wrong, this is not the Nigeria we know, this is not how we are supposed to tackle the problem, people were told by this government, your land or your life. And of course,
did they really say that?
I remember the quote by Femi Adesina. He said, will it rather not be better that you're alive than to hold on to your land? So what does that mean? Is it your land or your life? This was 2017, 2018. And so we are progressively, and then all of a sudden, we now had shifting from at the time that we were getting to the elections of 2019, there seemed to be a lull, if you recall. And immediately after the elections of 2019, and President Buhari was declared winner again, there was another explosion, this time towards the northwest. And we saw a rebranding of these terrorist influence attacks. And so they now started being called bandits. And so we found that at all times, efforts were being made to not to tackle the problem head on, as it were, but at all times, efforts were being made. People were being pacified. Bandits were now terrorists were now called bandits, and said, "Oh, what they're doing." And then we had people going along to, and then of course, children, our children in schools now became fodder because there were multiple kidnappings, and you could see from Dapchi to Kankara to Jangebe to, I mean, all over. And it still continues up to today. Ransoms were being paid. And then we got to even the point where we saw a state governor meeting with these terrorists. And they were brandishing their guns, and we were saying there was a negotiation going. Of course, no blackmailer gives up. You see, once you continue to pay, he will continue what he's doing. And that's exactly what has happened with payment of ransom. But the point really is that all over the country, we now saw an upsurge of people carrying military-grade weapons, following cattle, and then attacking communities, doing kidnappings, and creating a general state of insecurity and fear. So people could no longer go to farms in the food belt of the country, which is Benue, southern Kaduna, all the way down coming towards Niger, Enugu, and then parts of the west. And so what most of us feel today is that it's very difficult for this government to deal with the problem, because you first have to acknowledge that there is a problem. Now, this government were very quick to tag the separatists and people who were doing agitation in the southeast terrorists, because they know the implication of tagging anybody a terrorist. And every effort being made to say, why these people who are doing all these things in the northeast, in the northwest, and so forth, why wouldn't you also designate them so that the full weight of international opprobrium will land on them? And every effort is made to, beautify the word and say it's bandits. But then this set of people have been able to shoot down a military aircraft. And so it's no longer that they are just people who are doing kidnapping for ransom.
Because I want us to look at the problem of this insecurity, because it's a major one. And every sector of the country has its own share of it.
Yes.
And from the point of view of the National Assembly, because you are government too, you are part of government.
Yeah.
And so in looking for the solution, that was why I asked the question, what have you identified in your own position? You are the leader of the minority in the National Assembly, in the Senate. What have you identified as a problem? One single thing that you see that is a major problem.
The major problem is the inability of the government to want to tackle that. The single most dangerous part is this influx of non-Nigerians with military-grade weapons sweeping across our countries, going into the countryside and committing mayhem. But no effort is made to profile them. No effort is made to make sure that there is a counter surge against them. No effort is, all that has been happening has been pacification. Let me just put it that, not pacification, I'm sorry. All that has been happening is an attempt to reach agreements. How do you reach agreements with a terrorist who is coming from outside the country trying to take over? Because you see what's going on in the Plateau State just in the past few weeks. That is emblematic of what has been happening. Group of people come in, sack our community, and then if the community fights back, then our own security people fight the community for defending themselves. So it's something that you just cannot. The National Assembly did a security summit. The Senate did a security summit. That was when the previous leadership of the armed forces were there. We brought out certain resolutions and everything that they said bordered on, we don't have enough equipment, we need to recruit more men, and we approved everything. And after that was done, a report was brought and it was taken to Mr. President. When we were debating it, part of this thing was a rejigging. And when they say rejigging, of course, at that point, people felt that the leadership at that time no longer, the leadership of the military, no longer had the confidence of those that were following them, and meant that maybe we needed to change the coach. Let's just put it that way. But that has been done.
You don't think there is any improvement?
I have not seen any measurable improvement in the sense that Nigerians feel safer. I don't think anyone does. On the contrary, every day brings a new challenge. And we really think that the government just doesn't have the capacity to do it anymore. Yeah.
Because one of the things that the present administration has said is that this problem wouldn't have gotten to this problem had your government of the PDP before 2015 spent the monies meant for military hardware for what it was meant, not to have been stolen. Those are the accusations against the PDP government. And these are being underlined by this government that is one of the major problems, that they inherited a military, a police that is short of the kind of equipment that it needs to fight the war that is confronted by the nation.
I think one of the most unfortunate parts of what has happened to us is the tendency for this government to lie to itself and believe its own lies in the build-up to the 2015 elections. If you recall, we didn't have any insurgency in the northwest. We didn't have any in the southwest. Neither did we have any in the southeast. The problem in the south in the Niger Delta had been largely resolved by the PDP government of President Yaradua. Recall also that before the elections, there was also, because the major area of problems was basically the northeast, and basically in two states, maybe just in another one, Borno, Yobe, and part of Adamawa, if we all tell ourselves the truth. And the government at that time, or President Jonathan, also asked for time so that they can be sure that elections are done peacefully everywhere. And there was a sweep that brought all these dangerous people were actually sent out of Nigeria. The point really, like I told you, is that when people develop selective amnesia in this government, that is their issue, not ours. At the point at which we handed over in 2015, most parts of Borno State had been cleared and people had been told to move back.
With some, it's a local government or so. They have a senator.
Yes, at that time, it wasn't
hosting of flags.
That is what I'm saying. They had already removed all of them. Then, this government came into place. That I'm talking about selective amnesia. This government spent how many months to even get a government going. Those who were fighting the wars, including those who were brought from outside at that time, who had even decimated were all sent away. And then gradually, the same Boko Haram people started creeping back. And I said that from that time, that was when we now started getting people coming into this country. And these same apologies of our government making excuses for them. Understand that at that time when we queried, and that's why I like the fact that there's always the facts. There's always the intent, doesn't lie. At that time, I remember in 2016 and 2017, when we queried, I said, who are all these people who are not speaking Nigerian languages, who are coming in carrying this thing? What happened? We were told, first of all, by President Buhari himself, that it was a fallout of the civil war in Libya. When we queried further to say, why are these people in Plateau and in Benue killing and murdering villagers and sacking villages? We were told that, that it was because people were on grazing routes and were blocking those because of, remember, the Minister of Defense at that time, Dan Manso, made that statement. And when we went further to ask again, how could it be that people are being murdered all over the place? And you're telling us that it is just herder-farmer clash. At every point, there will always be a narrative. At that time, did you hear of anything in Southern Kaduna? Did you hear of anything in Katsina? Did you hear of anything in Zamfara? Did you hear of anything in Kebbi? Nothing. A safe country was handed over to APC. And in the past 6 years of APC, all this safe country has now turned into a killing field for Nigerians everywhere. We can argue endlessly about it, but the facts cannot be controverted.
What do you see as a possible solution? If, for example, you are given the opportunity to turn this around and fix the security situation in the country, what would you do?
The first thing is that I get those who know what to do the work. I don't now introduce nepotism into the security architecture. Understand this, Shehu. And I would like Nigerians to controvert me on this if I'm lying. I remember that when the appointments were being made in the security agent, and we said, no, something is wrong here. How could we just continue to put just a particular set of people from a particular side of the country, from a particular religion, that this is a secular country and multi-ethnic country? One of the very key phrases that was always used at that time was, oh, leave the president to make his appointments for those that he trusts. We don't care whether they come from one kitchen, so long as he trusts those. And we said no. Certain things you have to do on competence. So, if I need to do a surgery in my eye, I'm not going to go and find a native doctor to come and do it. I will find a trained ophthalmologist. And that is how it is with most parts of life. You don't just put people just because you like them or they are from your house or something like that and say go and do a job that is beyond their capacity. So what we are seeing is the consequence of what a friend of mine called the weaponization of nepotism. When you leave those who are competent to do a job and then you give it to some other people and justify it in all manners of ways, because you can justify anything on this earth, the consequence will always be that we will suffer for it. And Nigeria is, I'm sorry, in very dire straits today because of this type of judgment.
So you will go after people even if they're mercenaries or not Nigerians?
Who will do the job is the most important thing.
Not minding whether they are not Nigerians.
Let me say this.
Because the government of PDP made use of mercenaries. Would you use that? Would you consider such?
It got the job done then, didn't it? We got the job done. We could not do election. And that election was what the election that brought in President Buhari. We got the job done. That is the most critical thing. The most critical thing today, look, one of the things that pains me personally, and I've had discussions with friends of mine who are in the military, and every time I say this, the Nigerian military went to Congo, imposed order in Congo in the 60s. The Nigerian military in the 80s went to Liberia, went to Sierra Leone, imposed order, which means that the problem today is not the Nigerian military has the capacity, and I continue to say they do. But somebody on Channels Television, too, gave us a hint of what the problem was, which is that the military has to work under the leadership of the civil authority. And when the civil authority doesn't give them that go ahead to be able to deal with that issue, we all run into problems. I think that if it's in terms of funding, when somebody now tells you, oh, they stole money, it's not true.
You mean monies were not stolen?
I said
that
it is not, that is not the reason why we are unable, because we also found out that whatever little success that was done at the early part of this administration, it was the arms and ammunition that was bought by the PDP government.
Are you saying that monies were not being carted away from the NSA's office? These were allegations made, and they were taken to court. That there were monies that are being given by people, and some people owned up to it, that they actually took those monies.
You know what goes on, and I think I don't want you also to fall into that trap. The trap is, under Jonathan, we voted $2 billion. I was part of the Senate that done that, and they bought equipment for this. If a few people, their fingers were found in a few fries, is that what you will say, that the whole money was stolen? It wasn't.
A lot of money was stolen. Millions in dollars.
See, that is the problem. That is the problem with this narrative. Sheer incompetence is now being subsumed under a phantom people stole money. And I say it is sheer incompetence.
Are you saying monies were not stolen?
No, Sean, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying monies were or were not stolen. I'm saying that it is the incompetence of the leadership and the direction of the fight against the insecurity and the terrorists and everything that have besieged Nigeria, that rather than own up, people now start looking for where to hang. And then the first thing to do is, oh, PDP people stole. Please, Sean, the day we're going to have a conversation, on the